It's time for Retire Right with Reverse Rob, diving deeper into housing wealth and utilizing a portion of your home's equity as a coordinated strategy in retirement planning. Now here's your host, Senior Retirement Mortgage Specialist at Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, Rob Kanier.
One of the most effective ways to discuss the retirement mortgage, or in other words, the modern era reverse mortgage in this day and age of 2026, is to do a little bit of storytelling. And maybe what I mean by that is some actual case studies from over the years that of clients we've had that have benefited from this. Again, to review, the benefits of doing a retirement mortgage are a lot different than they were 20 years ago. It's evolved into the modern era reverse mortgage. And I use that term because it's no longer it's evolved from a loan of last resort where they own the home or they took the house away, which hasn't happened since the 60s and 70s and 80s, to a loan of first resort where we have more affluent, higher net worth clients utilizing this, as well as those dire need of it. So I wanted to just share with you the first client that I had when I started doing these. I've been doing lending now since 1999, so about 27 years of lending, mortgage lending. And I hit a crossroad in my career in 2015 where I just was burned out and I was just tired of the mortgage industry. I'd been through ups and downs in the market. I've been through the mortgage meltdown, the crisis of 2008, 9, and 10, and coming from another company, leaving another company in 2014 to come to Fairway. It was not a very pleasant experience leaving that other company. So I had just had it. So I was looking to get into another profession at that point in time. However, God had other plans, and I received a call from a real estate agent I had been working with for about 10 years. And she called one day out of the blue. I think this was like January of 2020 or 2015. And she's like, "Hey, it's Beth. I wanted to talk to you about my aunt and uncle. They're in a situation where they need to look at doing a reverse mortgage. Do you do those?" And I was like, sure, yeah. And started Googling reverse mortgages. How do you do reverse mortgages? Ordered a book on Amazon, Reverse Mortgages for Dummies. I still carry that book around with me today, and I'll be teaching a real estate class tomorrow, and I'll joke about that. Lo and behold, at that point in time, Fairway Home Mortgage made the executive decision to start their reverse division at that very same time. And by God's grace, I had one of the top reverse mortgage planners in the nation who had been doing them since 2000, 2001, maybe early 2000s. And he became my mentor, and to this day has taught me a lot of what I still implement today with clients and presenting to realtors and financial advisors and CPAs. So a very special couple. And they had a house, modest home in North Scottsdale. It was valued at around $550,000 at the time. So this is in 2015. And they were carrying a mortgage. It was over $200,000, and their mortgage payment was, let's say, around $2,000 a month. So their cash flow was it was very tight because all of their money was going out to pay this mortgage. So in essence, Social Security checks come in every month, mortgage payment goes out. Social Security checks come in, mortgage payments goes out. So they were running out of money before the month. And so I talked to them, a wonderful couple. The husband was actually the screenwriter for the Walton series in the 1970s. And he also did screenwriting for a lot of the Steve McQueen movies. Very rodeo guy, cowboy, just the heart of gold. What a wonderful soul he had. I miss him so much. And his wife was a stay-at-home mom for their 2 kids. And so they spent what they didn't have a lot of savings or retirement because they were spending the years with their kids, taking vacations and going on set and just enjoying life. And so that went on. But one little problem is that they continued living well into their 80s. And so that it was becoming a pinch, and they had a ton of equity, quite a sizable amount of equity in that North Scottsdale home. So Fast forward, that was the first reverse mortgage I had closed. I actually closed it while I was still getting certified to do reverse for my company. And it went pretty painless and seamlessly. We were able to get rid of that mortgage and that mortgage payment and cash flow them by an additional $25,000 a year. And on top of that, because they had enough equity and based on their age, they were able to get another maybe $35,000 to $40,000 of tax-free cash from the reverse mortgage line of credit. I didn't realize the impact. I just thought it was another loan, another transaction. And we closed. We took a picture at the title company of them signing. Everything was hunky dory. Then I did a workshop maybe a month later or two. And I said, hey, would you like to come and be, attend with me as a guest, as a client testimonial? And as I picked up the husband to go to this workshop across town, he came out and he was all happy and joyous and just at ease, relaxed. And he just said, Rob, I just want to let you saved my, and I won't use the word, but he's like, you saved my bacon. He goes, if we hadn't got this loan done, it saved his marriage. His wife was like, we're done, because 80% of divorces are based on finances on average. And since the 1990s, the divorce rate for age 50 plus married couples, has tripled to the point where the reverse mortgage, actually, I'm not going to get into that on this episode, but can play an integral part in a divorce situation where you can have the two ex-husband, ex-wife, each having their own home, utilizing a reverse mortgage without having a mortgage payment. So Jeb gets in the car after sharing that with me, that news that, this loan saved his marriage. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And we get to the workshop. Jeb shares a story. I'm in the back, bawling my eyes out, because he went on for 5 minutes telling the audience his story about what this loan for broke people that is a ripoff that no one should do, especially Dave Ramsey. No debt, no debt. Doesn't understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, but that's for another episode. And it was a game changer. And I was just like, wow, this is more than just a loan. This is a lifestyle, a change in lifestyle. It saved their marriage. And I mean, it improved the relationship with their two adult grown children. It was just like amazing. So we continue to educate and disseminate information like on this podcast to the masses to get scalability, because less than 1% of the adult population over age 55 knows what a reverse mortgage is or even has a reverse mortgage. At this point, as we talk, this is from 2015 to 2026. It's still less than 1% saturation. It's just like the best kept secret, because everybody thinks they understand it and know what it is, and they don't. So with all due respect, or respectfully, I have to calmly and professionally explain how this loan works and why you should consider it. And before I get into the next story, the reason that our clients consider this, and more of them are becoming a want-based loan rather than a needs-based loan, so a loan of first resort rather than a loan of last resort, and why we have more mass affluent, higher net worth clients utilizing this, is they understand a few things in retirement. Number one is cash flow. In real estate, the realtors will say on their little business card or their sign, location, location, location. In mortgages, especially reverse mortgages for homeowners and borrowers age 55 and older in most states, 62 and older in all states, it's cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. So that's the most important thing in retirement, is cash flow. And you can talk to any comprehensive financial advisor about that, or certified financial planner, and they're going to agree with you on that in most cases. Number two is taxes. In retirement, paying taxes, income taxes, can be a huge hurdle for a lot of higher net worth, more affluent clients. Number three would be portfolio preservation. What I mean by that is we want to preserve our retirement funds and make them last as long as we can because we're living longer. And when I meet with a client, when they come in, a lot of them are more concerned about running out of money than they are running out of life. So we want to preserve that portfolio, which we refer to as bucket number 2, and we want to slow down the draw or a drain on bucket number 2, the retirement funds, and we want to turn on bucket number 3, which is the bucket I manage. Bucket number 2 is managed by the financial advisors that I work with, and bucket number 3 I manage, which is home equity, which by the way is over $12 trillion of home equity trapped in seniors' homes or seasoned homeowners' homes right now across the nation, age 60 and older. Over $12 trillion of untapped equity that we can harness a portion of that and save their marriage or save their life, literally. And I'll share a story about Sandy here in a minute about how this loan actually, what it did for her. Legacy. Leaving a larger legacy is important to a lot of our clients, our homeowners, seasoned homeowners, when they take out a retirement mortgage, as I refer to it. And the reason that they leave a larger legacy is because they're paying less in taxes. They're giving their children and their grandchildren money or gifts, or they're funding a Roth conversion or an annuity or a college fund while they're still alive. We call it giving with a warm hand versus giving with a cold hand. That's very important. So cash flow, tax preservation, portfolio management, leave a larger legacy for the children. And the next one would be protecting the surviving spouse. I met with a couple yesterday. The husband was 70 years old. The wife was 57 years old. And they have a house in the Scottsdale area, whatever, worth about $900,000. And they owe about $500,000, and they're looking for a way to utilize the retirement mortgage to eliminate the existing mortgage that is, $3,000 a month, $2,500 a month, so that if the husband predeceases his wife, which will probably happen since he's 13 years older than she is able to remain in the home without having to have a mandatory mortgage payment, and is going to cash flow by $30,000 a year, consequently making their other money in their portfolio last longer as well. So that is number 5, the number 5 objection. And number 6 would just be simply liability protection. The way the retirement mortgage works is it's a non-recourse loan where you can never owe more than the house is worth. It's embedded in the note and deed of trust. The loan does not become payable and due until you sell the home or pass away, permanently move out of the house. And then the surviving spouse or the heirs have up to 6 months initially plus 2 90-day extensions. So technically up to 12 months to buy or sell the property. That's very important. So the way the note and deed are recorded, it is additional protection. And this is where it comes in very important if you're listening, if you're an attorney. To all you attorneys out there, I love you, especially estate planning attorneys and elder law attorneys, because they're concerned about the estate while the borrower's living, if they're an elder law attorney, and then they're concerned about the estate after the borrower has passed as an estate planning attorney, and they're all about liability protection. So there's a lot of title fraud and a lot of title theft going on out there, especially with seasoned homeowners age 62 and older. They're getting notices in the mail, they're getting phone calls, they're getting emails, they're getting people actually physically knocking on their door on a free and clear home to sign something. And all it takes is one misspelling of a first or last name, or adding a middle initial or taking a middle initial out. And then abracadabra, the house has now been signed over to a third party, and they've just sold or signed their house away. That's title theft and title fraud. If they have a retirement mortgage on the property, they have additional protection. So when someone takes out a retirement mortgage, they have the house protecting them. They have the first lien from the investor protecting them. And then there's a second lien from the Federal Housing Administration, from FHA, that's protecting them as well. So there's triple protection on there. Forget about all the umbrella policies and having the house in a trust. That's all fine and dandy. My in-laws had that as well. This is additional protection because you can never have too much protection on your home to protect it in the event you get into an accident. Heaven forbid you disable someone or kill them. That's where this loan is very impactful and good with clients that and their attorneys looking for liability protection. So I'm going to switch gears really quick. I want to get back to a gal that I mentioned to you earlier. After I had my borrower attending and it shared with the group about saving his marriage by doing a retirement mortgage back in 2015. That was April of 2015. A little while later, we did a workshop at a library in Scottsdale. I had grandiose expectations of having the auditorium seated 110 people, and I was hell-bent on filling that library, and lo and behold, we had 21 people attending that. But one of the 21 people attending that was Barbara, a real estate agent who came to get more information, and she just said, hey, I want to learn about this product. If Rob is doing this and Fairway's doing this, it's got to be on the up and up, which it is. And I am very grateful for her for assuming that and thinking that, and that is the truth. And she came because she had a client, Sandy, who currently had a retirement mortgage and wanted to get more information to Sandy. And that's where Barbara learned that you can use a retirement mortgage to purchase a home. And that, believe it or not, I teach realtor continuing education. I've taught it to my class. I got it approved with the Arizona Department of Real Estate in 2017, started teaching in 2018. We've had over 3,000 realtors go through that continuing education class on the retirement mortgage, home equity utilization in real estate. It's a great class. Every realtor that comes to it loves it. And we talk about the retirement mortgage for purchase, which came into vogue in 2009 after the mortgage meltdown. Yeah, I would say probably 95% of real estate agents across the nation don't understand what I just said, that you can use a reverse mortgage, or what I refer to as a retirement mortgage, to purchase a home and increase their buying power. And that's for a totally separate topic on this podcast, which we'll get to. The reverse mortgage for purchase, we call it a HECM for purchase, or H for P, where you can literally increase the borrower's buying power by 30 to 40 to 50 to 60% and get them into the house that they want to be in, not have a mortgage payment unless they want to make a mortgage payment. Mortgage payments are optional. They're just responsible for their property taxes, homeowners insurance, and HOA. So getting back to Sandy, she is in a dire straits situation. She had just lost her husband about 6 months prior to me meeting her. Her portfolio at the time with her husband in their house, modest home in the eastern Shea Corridor of Scottsdale, Arizona, was worth upwards of about $750,000 to $800,000. And they had a sizable portfolio. Let's say that it was around $2 million. And so they were doing pretty good. And then something happened. Her husband, who happened to be a day trader, developed cognitive decline and had dementia, and he continued to day trade. Her husband continued to day trade to the point where he traded away most of their retirement portfolio, unbeknownst to Sandy. He then passed away, and cause of death was taking his life. I think at that point of his life, he realized that he didn't want to live any longer with his condition, and he may have realized what he had done to their future as far as retirement goes and their lifestyle. And that was the decision he made, and it left her in a very tough situation. It left her in a bind. So by God's grace, Barbara came to that workshop that I did at the library. I think it was like spring or summer, fall, somewhere in there, of 2015, the same year that I started doing these. And lo and behold, she went back to Sandy and said, hey, you can sell the big house and you could take the net proceeds and you could put it towards buying the house you want up in Cave Creek, Arizona, and not have a mortgage payment. And Sandy looked at Barbara like she'd been smoking something or drinking something or both. And that journey began with Sandy. And the reason that Sandy wanted to sell the big house and move to Cave Creek was the number one reason is to be closer to family. And she wanted to be closer to her daughter and granddaughter. So we were able to take a reverse for purchase based on Sandy's age and qualify her. I believe at the time the house was worth, let's say, $350,000 to $400,000. This is back in 2015, up in Cave Creek, Arizona. It was a modest, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in actually a gated community, probably around 1,300 square feet, and it was close to her daughter and granddaughter. That was the reason she wanted to move. With part of the net proceeds from the departure residence on the big house in the east part of Scottsdale, Shea Corridor, we took a portion of that based on her age, about half of that, so say $175,000, and put it towards the house, the new house, on a reverse for purchase. FHA, the investor, came in with the other $175,000. So we literally took a loan for broke people, so quote unquote, that everybody is against doing, and doubled Sandy's buying power and got her into the house she wanted to be in the area she wanted to be. She's still there. I talked to her. She'll probably be listening to this. I talked to her probably every 2 or 3 months. She'll call. She's become like a mom to me. It's pretty special. But she came to that same workshop that Jeb came to, and she shared her testimonial about what the reverse mortgage had done for her getting into the house she wanted to be in. She got a 50% senior discount. She came in with half. FHA came with the other half. She had no mortgage payment. She was just responsible for her property taxes, homeowners insurance, and HOA, and occupying the property as her primary residence and maintenance and upkeep, just like with Jeb and Dorothy. And when Sandy stood up to give her testimonial, and I usually get choked up when I share this, but she was at wit's end. She was at the end of her rope. She was down to $500,000 in her retirement. She succumbed to the fact that she could not buy a house again, and she accepted that. And she was demoralized. She was depressed. She had just basically given up. She was resorting to living in East Mesa. Nothing wrong with East Mesa, except it was like an hour from her family, and renting an apartment. And then she shared that she planned on potentially or contemplated doing the same thing that her husband did. So when I heard that in the same day, I'm a bucket of a mess in the back of the room listening to this. I had no idea the impact that this loan had and how I was at a crossroads in my career and was going to get out of the industry. And then we're one phone call away or one letter away from our life changing dramatically in a good way or a bad way, right? In this instance, it was a good thing. And so here I am doing these mortgages that no one understands, and I didn't understand them either. I was like, I don't want to do those because they are more comprehensive, more complex to do. There's a small percentage of loan officers that actually do these and do them well at a high level, and I'm just blessed, and by God's grace, I've put myself in that position and helped over 400 clients, served over 400 clients over the last 11 years doing these, and I am doubling down, and I'm not stopping, and we're going faster than we ever have before, full speed ahead with this wonderful mortgage tool option in retirement. So in the last few minutes we have of this segment, I just wanted to share a little bit with regard to, we talked about loan of first resort, we talked about loan of last resort. We help anybody. We help the full spectrum. We helped a client in Beverly Hills, California, with a net worth of $45 million last year, do a reverse mortgage, a retirement mortgage. And why did someone in Beverly Hills with a net worth of $45 million do a retirement mortgage? His golfing buddies at the country club and his polo buddies were asking him the same question, needling him, making fun of him. He says, it's really simple. It's called taxes. I don't like paying taxes, and I don't like paying capital gains out of my portfolio, and I do not want to take money out of my portfolio, get taxed on it, to pay capital gains on a property that I'm selling. So I'm going to utilize a portion of my equity in my primary residence in Beverly Hills, California, by utilizing a retirement mortgage, taking tax-free cash and not having to pay it back unless I want to until I sell the property or pass away. And I'm going to cover $280,000 plus of capital gains, and I'm going to have my house pay for it. So that's one of the objectives to doing this. We talked about tax planning at the earlier part of this segment. So fast forward to my former in-laws who are no longer with us at this time, but in 2016, they had approached me, and this is my third story. In a nutshell, they were like a five-tool player. In baseball, you have a five-tool player. In retirement mortgages, if you have a five-tool player, that's pretty sweet. And mom and dad, I refer to my in-laws as mom and dad, were a five-tool player. When they did their retirement mortgage, they had a house, a modest townhome in Moon Valley, Phoenix, Arizona, worth about $300,000 with a small mortgage of about $20,000 on it. And they were just going to stroke a check and pay it off. They had put themselves into a 15-year fixed mortgage because that's what you do in America. The American dream is you retire and you pay off your home, not necessarily in that order, so that you have no mortgage payment and you move on and you brag about how pride of ownership and having a free and clear home, no mortgage payment, which is great. And I commend people for that. But at the same time, it is very inefficient and it is a huge liability in retirement to have a free and clear home especially on your primary residence. And I conveyed that to them. Emotionally, it makes sense. And Dave Ramsey says you should do that. I would be careful and caution you on listening to him because in the financial planning industry, and if you talk to Dr. Wade Pfau, who's a good friend from the American College and the top RICP in the nation, top retirement researcher in the nation, he refers to Mr. Ramsey as nothing more than a marketer and a entertainer. So you could take that for whatever you want. That's his opinion, and I would tend to agree with that opinion. So stemming from the Great Depression, we were told not to have a mortgage, pay off, have a free and clear home in retirement, and that's just the way you do it. My dad did it that way. My grandfather did it that way. So by golly, that's what I'm going to do. In this day and age, with all of the liability we talked about, rising inflation, rising gas prices, rising homeowners insurance, rising homeowners association dues, rising property taxes, and a fixed income not keeping up with the inflation as far as Social Security goes, and fewer pensions are fewer and far between it, that plan is not working out too well. So we eliminated that $20,000 mortgage for mom and dad, and based on their age, around 80 years old, let's say, on a $300,000 property, we were able to eliminate that mortgage and that mortgage payment and cash flow them by $15,000 a year. In addition to that, because of the equity they had, there was an additional $147,000 that they had access to. Now, keep in mind, they had seven figures in retirement. They had planned well, they'd worked hard, and so they had a sizable portfolio. Not everybody has that, but that's their case study, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And that's what we're talking about because it's very important, because there are people listening to this or watching this right now that are in a similar situation, and it's relatability. And you're listening going, okay, then what? So the line of credit associated with the retirement mortgage works differently than a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. It's actually growing every month in correlation with the interest rate. So right now, today, in June of 2026, that line of credit associated with the retirement mortgage is growing at a rate, low risk guaranteed by FHA, at about 6.5%. In addition to what you have set up with your advisor, which could be anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12%. I don't know. That's between you and your advisor. So this is just an additional arrow in the quiver to enhance what you already have in place. And that's exactly what mom and dad did with theirs. Oh, by the way, because we were overspending the RMDs, the required minimum distribution, or they were pulling more money out every year above and beyond their required minimum distribution, we turned that off, turned bucket number 2 off, and we turned bucket number 3 on, and we saved them over $10,000 a year in taxes. We lost mom unexpectedly in June of 2020, and she was it was a shock to the family. She was caretaking for dad, who was in the middle of onset of Alzheimer's. And that was a perfect storm. But by taking out a loan that they didn't need 5 years earlier, we were able to help offset the cost of in-home care for dad, in addition to being able to allow him to age in place as long as we could keep him in the home before we had to transition him out into his next living arrangement because of the cognitive decline. So they were a 5-tool player. That's rare. So if we have someone that is considering, or you're considering a retirement mortgage and you're age 55 or older, and you call in to me and we talk and have a conversation over the phone or over Zoom or at my office, this is the conversation we're going to have. What is it that you want out of retirement? What's going to give you peace of mind and the ability to sleep at night, like it did with these 3 case studies that I've just shared with you today? Additional monthly cash flow, preserve your portfolio, leave a larger legacy for the kids, pay less in taxes to the IRS, protect the surviving spouse. And if we add the 6th tool, liability protection. If we can accomplish one of those objectives, 1 or 2 of them out of the 6, then it's game on. Let's go. Let's get this done. The next question is, why doesn't everybody do this? The next question after that is, how quickly can you get this done? So thank you for letting me share with you today on some very, very good memories and very good case studies. I hope that resonated with you and that we can hear from you and you can be one of our stories that we talk about later on the show.
Rob is a senior retirement mortgage specialist at Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Feel free to contact Rob with any questions. Subscribe, like, or share so you won't miss an episode. Download and listen to the audio version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening to Retire Right with Reverse Rob.